Groovy. Let's do it. Okay, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. So I'm your host, John Harris, and today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have The Shape, and they have a new album that's going to be coming out in October 29th, called The Age of Doom and Fear. Right now I'm being joined by Brian to share some more information about some current singles that are out and what the band's got going on. So Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely great to have you. How am I? I'm good. I'm really good. How are you, baby?
I am effing fantastic. Is this one where we can swear, or is this one where I cannot?
You know, you can swear. I'll just mark it explicit for anybody listening with children. Although the median age for my show is, I think, 18 to 34, and typically also in a band or a musician.
Very good to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're listening in and you're like, I am 18 to 34 and I am in a band, just know that the internet is watching you and I get that information.
All the time.
All the time. Speaking of people watching you, The Age of Doom and Fear, what in the world is this about? Is this a prophecy? What's going on here, Brian?
It was a lot of songs that were a long time coming, and we had set out to make a new record in early 2020 that got pushed back into right around the time the pandemic started. And we had everything all set to go on that. And we ended up, obviously, because nobody knew what was going on, it was like, all right, pause. We got to hold, see what's going on here. We ended up kind of creating something completely different and new from it that was way heavier, way angrier, and really reflective of the first, April, May, June, July of last year, kind of all done in a continuous vacuum. And that 4-month period of time was just very, very disheartening and strange and weird and nothing like I had ever seen in my lifetime. So my guitarist and I, my longtime guitarist Chris, that founded the band with me, I just said to him one day, it's like the age of doom and fear, man. It's every day there's something new. There's going to be, frogs coming down the sky, dropping any minute, tornadoes, blah, blah, blah. So it's really just the songs are, it's not, I wouldn't say like a concept album by any means, but it's a reflection based in, this insane last 18 months that we've had, on micro topics, but, the underneath having our, leave that up to interpretation for this is going to make it your own.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned it's not really a concept record, but I'm seeing a few things, from what I can see anyway, like Dr. Plague. Well, now I know what that's about.
Well, that one's actually kind of interesting. Dr. Plague was a song that we initially wrote, I want to say, like a very early version of it in 2008, and it was something that we sat with where we just felt like we couldn't finish getting it right. Like it wasn't always there. There was something about it that we just needed to let it stew for a while. And the original demo, just the sound on it it just wasn't driving for us, so we kind of put it on the back burner. But it was always one that we really loved, like 4 minutes or so of, but we needed to just kind of let it mature, and then we went back to it, and we had like the missing pieces just playing off of each other, because that's really all that we could do. Nothing was open. We would just go out and write just to each other's houses close by, and just write music and have these pieces come together and take it on a song by song basis. And that was the first one that we actually started with. Like Chris brought that up for just dicking around on the guitar, and I'm like, oh my god, I forgot about that, man.
Yeah.
what the fuck were the, sorry, what the hell were the rest of the riffs in that song? And then he played them through, and I was like, oh man, I had this other piece right here, and it just really, it knocked everything into, it just got the ball rolling, and we knew that was a song that we wanted to open the record with too. In terms of lyrical content, it, to a degree, it's about what's going on, but it's more so just this. It looks back at all the different plagues that have gone on, like from your Spanish flu to way earlier than that. And back in the day, there were different types of plague doctors where, you know, for one, the bourgeoisie would send them down in France to, you know, help the poor people. But it wasn't always helping. Then there were con men that were people that were healers. So you never knew what you got, but you were always afraid if you were a lay citizen and you didn't know who to trust. So I thought that was an interesting concept for what you see going on on TV, because every channel you see with the news is telling you something completely different. So I thought that was an interesting hook in comparison. So we ran with that ball, and we thought, in the very least, that people aren't pissed off about it, which they shouldn't be, because you have your own mind and you can make up what you think of it. It'd at least be funny. Fucked up way.
Yeah, you could just laugh it off. You know, it's a real hee haw. I'm still waiting for that, for everybody to just, you know, wow, 2020, that was stupid. Let's just laugh it off. I'm still kind of waiting for that, Brian. Maybe we're too soon.
Not that. It's like if you're going to be offended by it on either side, or like I can see people interpreting it in many ways and getting upset with it when that's kind of the goal.
Yeah. I wanted you to get upset. So if you're upset, we're here. That's, yeah.
Yeah. We are right freaking here, man.
Right freaking here, man. In Long Island. We're right freaking here.
One guy.
One guy.
One guy.
Now, you mentioned something about producing a heavier, angrier record, and it came across. As soon as I heard the next track that you guys had just released, Invisible Wolves, you saw me. I started shaking violently. I had no control over my body anymore. I said, you guys are angry. For those statistical musicians that are listening into the show right now, how do you write heavier? How do you write angrier? How do you take that emotion that you're feeling and go onto a record, and it translates to somebody 3,000-4,000 miles away, or even further than that?
That's a really good question. I've never gotten before.
Take your time.
Heavy is a few different things, right? Heavy is not just the sound of, you know, in metal. It's not just that, and people often mistake it just for how it sounds. Heavy is an attitude. It's the ideas behind things. Some of the heaviest shit is stuff that might not be the heaviest musically. Mm-hmm. I mean, for us, I will clarify that this is definitely our heaviest in that department. So for sure, we do mean that. But in terms of getting to that place, it was very easy this time around. I mean, when you're stuck inside, you can't do anything that you like to do. You can't go anywhere. You know, some of us struggle with mental health issues and anxiety, depression, stuff like that. It's really hard. And at the same time, you do understand, you know, what the whys, and you get it, you know. But the longer it goes on, the more that kind of madness takes over. So that's kind of what happened. And I think Invisible Wolves was not one of the first songs we had written for it. That kind of came out later. So as more things became just embarrassing to watch, you know, between people. You see on TV people acting like grown people in their 70s and 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. You're just kind of baffled sometimes at the things that they would outwardly say in public. You know, I don't really have to get all that clear about who and what and all that, because we've talked enough about that stuff. But it was very easy because it affected everybody's lives. But the songs, we worked really hard to make sure the songs weren't like stuck in a time capsule. So you could listen to this and the topics and themes of each songs would still apply if you listen to it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. It won't sound dated to a certain time period. Lyrically, it's not like citing specific things. And Invisible Wolves, in particular, is a song about outrage. It's about the idea of people being at each other's throats with a pack of wolves behind them, ready to use them and turn them on each other at any point. And that's what that song is about. So in terms of just getting heavier and angrier, we didn't need much motivation.
Yeah.
We didn't need much. But I will say this. I will say, after we went through the process of writing and recording this record, which was a blast, it was a very small skeleton crew of us. Despite how amazing the production sounds and how big everything sounds, it was actually quite a small crew, which was awesome to do. And, we were able to turn around and write kind of a more experimental record, because we ended up writing 2 during this time period. So we have another one completely ready to go for the following year in 2020, late 2022 or early 2023. That's a huge departure from this.
Okay.
Because at the same time, you go through all these different emotions and you feel all these different things, and you get that angry, but that's not the full emotional range of a person. So for every, song we wrote that was in that vein, we had something that was a little more chill, something that was a little more introspective, and we just grouped them together in the right ways.
So many things I could say. I'll just go in order. Number 1, that's awesome, Brian. Number 2, planting the seeds for coming back onto the show, unless you don't want to come back onto the show.
100%.
Oh, sweet. And then the third one, is there a third one? Did I have a third one? Anyway, I don't know either. The train. I talked a lot. Yeah, the train left the station. I just got to wait for another train to come up. It'll have all more ideas. We'll just roll with it. I know you mentioned about sounding relevant, 5, 10, 15 years from now. And I was remembering at that moment that, this is 20-ish years ago now, the Bush era, the 2000 to 2008, I think, something like that. Yeah. I remember listening to a Queensryche album that they had actually written about the Reagan administration and thinking, man, this is relevant to today. Like, shit just keeps going in cycles. And so it's like, I don't want to relive what happened in 2020, but the sad thing is that probably at some capacity, the record will be in another age of doom and fear at some point, unfortunately.
And you just nailed exactly why we decided to stick with that title.
Yeah.
Because, if you don't look at history, you are doomed to repeat it.
Yeah. And I've read some very interesting theories on that one as well. Like why humans actually still repeat history, even though they're smart enough to not repeat it. And it actually, I read from an evolutionary biologist who said that we are what we are, and until we evolve out of it, in which case we have no control over how we evolve out of it, this is it.
Yeah, it's comfort and it's what you know.
Yeah.
Or it's one or the other.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, cool. And then what else did you say? You said anger isn't the full range of human emotion. Now, here's an interesting question, I guess. This is just a discussion, right? But that's what we saw a lot of. And did you guys then, through this record, maybe dive deeper into maybe what is anger at its core? Did you said you mentioned you were writing some stuff, in the opposite that's sort of calm. And then I was thinking, as you were saying that, is calm the opposite of anger? Or is calm just the absence of anger? And it's just, I don't know, I've wanted to have a discussion with you, Brian.
You are a great question proposer, man. You're a great interviewer. That's a few things to unpack, but I will answer each little point I have in my head as you were saying that. So on the anger tip, before the calm, anger comes and it goes, right? If you're always angry, that is not healthy for your system. It is good to have it, though. It is good to feel that emotion, because if everything is perfect, you know, are you living? Are you experiencing? You know, so it's that weird, you know, probably hippie, you know, spirituality mentality. But I do believe that, because as zen as one can be, if you don't have that in you anymore to a degree about something, are you passionate? Like, anger to me comes from passion, and it comes from despair, being angry about things that you find sad and or reprehensible to other people. It doesn't have to be to you in your life. Like, you know, we see people that, you know, have so much money they could cure world hunger, and they don't do shit about it. You know, that have billions and millions of dollars. And to me, that makes me angry on a certain level. Can I do anything about it? No, but I could definitely maybe inspire some ideas on other people with just how I'm thinking, or how I might, you know, create some lyrics and put some music to it. I may be able to stir that emotion, which is the whole point of that art. And in terms of calm being the opposite of angry, I think from releasing that anger, it's kind of how, like, you know, you get, you know, serotonin hits and dopamine hits and stuff like that. When you reach that pinnacle, like in real life, for example, I'm not this guy running around being like, "Cross, brother." I'm not doing that 24/7. If I was, I should be in a mental hospital, or locked away in jail. You know, do I get annoyed or pissed off in daily life? Of course, human, everybody does. But I'll save all that for when we go on stage or when we rehearse. And then there is a feeling when you're done that's this hard to describe, calming feeling that does come over you. Like, you have your, you know, I just did a workout, but then, you know, like when you finish doing your workout, you have those feelings like, okay, I got it all out, you know? So so is it the opposite of calm? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's more, you know, a biological time thing, you know, and a body and brain chemistry thing than anything.
Yeah. Cool. So if you're listening in right now and you're like, but I am angry all the time, call somebody, talk to somebody. It's not healthy.
Yeah. Or you're a teenager, because when I was a teenager, I was always angry. So I get that too.
Is there a difference between teenage angst and anger?
I would assume they cross. I mean, the stuff I was angry about as a teen is definitely not as rough as the stuff I get angry about at 37.
This is true. This is very true.
When you have a mortgage and car payments and all this other kind of stuff, and you know, you have to deal with people in, you know, work capacities and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You would be surprised at how much more chill that other stuff will just flutter away.
Certainly will. Yeah. I wrote down healthy anger. It made me think of, oddly enough, the best Metallica album ever, Saint Anger. And Saint Anger is a song about controlling that, because apparently James has issues with anger issues. And in there, he has a lyric like, "I want my anger to be healthy," which, you know, if you're trying to get rid of anger, well, that's not good either. Like you said earlier, Zen doesn't mean that you're never angry. It means that you're angry for a really good reason, and then you do something about it because you understand why you're angry. And then when you're done, you have the release because you've released it. But where it's not healthy is where you're either trying to never be angry or you're angry all the time because you're not doing something about it. Your system's telling you that something's wrong.
Yep.
You got to do something.
Like, you ever see those people? I'm sure you have. The people that always have the smile on their face like this, and you're like, how the fuck do you always have that going on?
Botox.
Like, I don't get. Yeah, this thing. Man.
Yeah. It looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Looks great.
My eyes are stapled upward. But they always kind of come off a little fake at some point, like, or something's it's like, get it out, something's bothering you.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, if you're just trying to avoid it, you don't solve any problems. It's like, that's like a fire's in your house and you're like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna run out the door and not do anything about it. When you eventually you're gonna come home and your house is burned down, or it's still at a low-grade fire, so you didn't really fix anything.
That's right. And we fix things, baby. Right here on The Shape with the Rock Metal Podcast. We fix it. Cool. So, Brian, we chatted about the internet watching you. We chatted about producing a heavier, angrier record, and you were successful in doing that. We chatted about sounding relevant 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. We chatted about healthy anger. We chatted about the age of doom and fear, how that title came into being, and how that will also be relevant. We chatted about Zen. What else did we chat about? We chatted about a lot of good stuff. We got the record coming out October 29th. You mentioned in the pre-roll you can't really say much else about that, but you also did plant the seed, plant into a beautiful tree. A lotus flower. Out of the mud of the age of doom and fear comes the beautiful lotus flower. Into a next record, which case more than likely it'll come across my desk and we'll chat again and it'll be fantastic. And maybe you'll be in Connecticut that time instead of Long Island. Everybody in Long Island right now is very happy that somebody in Canada knows how to say where they're from, I'm sure. And is there anything I missed, Brian?
Not really, man. If for listeners, if you go to our Spotify, it's very simple. The Shape. We're on all streaming platforms, Bandcamp, everything for our socials is The Shape Rocks. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Bandcamp, yada yada. YouTube. We have out Dr. Plague, the Parasomniac, and Invisible Wolves. And we are going to be dropping another track next month called City of Ghosts. That's a little bit more of a hard rock kind of anthem. It's probably the only or the most hopeful spot on a song on the record.
Slight glimpse of hope here in the age of doom and fear. It had to be said that way.
Good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Brian, for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast today.
Thank you, man.